بدر جميل
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa barik wasallam. Allahumma atina min ladunka rahmah wa 'allimna min ladunka 'ilma. Subhanaka la 'ilma lana illa ma 'allamtana innaka antal 'alimul hakim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. نويت التعلم والتعليم تذكر وتذكير والنفع والانتفاع والإفادة والاستفادة والحث على التمسك بكتاب الله وسنة رسوله صلى الله عليه وآله وصحبه وسلم ودعاء إلى الهدى ودلالة على الخير ابتغاء وجه الله مرضاته وقربه وثوابه سبحانه وتعالى مع لطف وعافية برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم صل وسلم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. اللهم ألهمنا علما نفقه به أوامرك ونواهيك وارزقنا فهما نعرف به كيف نناجيك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم إنا نسألك فهم النبيين وحفظ المرسلين وإلهام الملائكة المقربين في عافية يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم أغنى بالعلم وزينا بالحلم وأكرمنا بالتقوى وجملنا بالعافية يا أرحم الراحمين. آمين. صلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. اللهم إنا نستودعك ما قرأناه وما نقرأه في هذا المجد وما قبله وما بعده فاحفظه علينا حتى ترده إلينا وقت احتياجنا إليه يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم أكرمنا بنور الفهم وأخرجنا من ظلمات الوهم وافتح لنا أبواب رحمتك وانشر علينا حكمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. آمين. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. اللهم يا مقاليد الأمور كلها بيده وإليه يرجع الأمر كله يا فتاح يا عليم يا فتاح يا عليم يا فتاح يا عليم افتح علينا فتحا قريبا. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي وسد لساني واهد قلبي وافعل كذلك بأحبابي أبدا وارزقنا كمال فتوح العارفين والفقه في الدين مع كمال الإخلاص والصدق واليقين والعافية والغنى والنصر والحفظ والنفع والانتفاع وخيرات الدارين وعلوم الأولين والآخرين. آمين. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم والحمد لله رب العالمين. الفاتحة. Alhamdulillah. Okay, Alhamdulillah. Last week we stopped right after the Battle of Uhud, right? And we mentioned that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right? At this point we mentioned that the disbelievers, they retracted, right? They went back, and it was as if they were not thinking, right? They were like, it was as if something happened, and it was as if they were not thinking, and they just went back, right? So it was a strange thing that they did, right? Because when you look at the entire battle as a whole, right, they actually did not win anything, and there was no victory for them at all. They didn't take any booty of war, they didn't take any prisoner, right? They didn't kill any main person, right? So like nothing was won in that battle. You know, like really nothing was won, right? So and the thing about it is that they didn't even like chase the Muslims thereafter. And Medina, which is the town whereby the enemy lives, right, was actually completely exposed. You mentioned that it was completely. So Rasul was actually quite afraid that they might actually be heading towards Medina, because Medina was only a stone's throw away. Right? If you've been to Uhud, Uhud is very near Medina. It's just a short drive out from Medina, you reach Uhud. right? So like they could just very well just march to Medina and conquer Medina and take all the women and children as slaves. Right? So I mean, it was actually just like a no-brainer. Right? The men are all up in the mountain. They've all fled, and Medina is completely exposed. Right? There's no one to protect Medina. Right? So like it just didn't occur to them. They did a very strange thing in war to just leave at that point. They didn't even take the booty. Like like when you win the battle, you would just go around the battlefield and you collect the booty. Right? You'll take whatever's left behind. You just take the wealth. At least take the wealth. Like do something to show that you won. I mean, they had no prisoner of war. They didn't take any booty. They just went off. So when they were so true enough, right? So people, the Muslims saw them going off back to Mecca, right? So the Muslims, they actually went back to Medina, right? They regrouped, right? And now Rasulullah SAW being cautious, right? He says we're going to march out again. I'm going to march out, right? Because in case it occurs to them, right, what kind of weird thing they just did? It was a really ridiculous thing they did because, No, I mean he knows, but of course the way by now you should know Rasulullah SAW takes no chances. And it's a sunnah. It's a sunnah of Rasulullah SAW, even though he knows that Allah will protect, and Allah has always protected, right? And in fact, I've mentioned last week that Habib Omar said that in the battle when Rasul was fighting, right, there were disbelievers who were watching him, right, on the battlefield, right, and they later on became Muslim, and they swear that they saw every arrow that was aimed to him steer away. Every arrow. They say whenever it would come towards his left, it would steer right across his shadow, his shoulder. And it comes towards his right, it will steer right across his shoulder. When it comes straight, it will literally shake and drop. So like, so it's just like you can't even so the disbelievers will be like, he's divinely protected. You can't do anything. You can't. I mean, it's not. This is not normal. And for someone to be fighting in the battle and the arrows just can't hit him. Like they never hit him. They just don't hit him. Right? So sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Right. So of course, Rasul he knows that Allah is over the entire thing and Allah is protecting them. And in fact, it's just that when the archers came down from the Archers Hill, right, and then they were sandwiched, right. That was the Sayyidina Muhammad. That was the uquba, right. That was the consequence. Right? That was the consequence of the actions. Thereafter, they were all obedient. So there was no prolonging of the consequence. The consequence happened there and then, right? Sayyidina Khalid bin Walid came from the back, sandwiched them, and then there was chaos. Right? 70 believers got killed, right? And that was it. Right? The archers felt remorse and they began fighting. They retreated into the mountain. I mean, it's done. It's done. So that means right now the believers are all obedient to Rasulullah SAW. There's not going to be any form of consequence thereafter, and they know that. They know. For as long as you're obedient to Rasulullah SAW, there is no defeat. It's impossible to be defeated if you're obedient to Allah Subhanahu wa Taala and to Rasulullah SAW, which is something that we lack in our aqidah. We really lack this in our aqidah. Therefore, as long as you are obedient to Allah Subhanahu wa Taala and to Rasulullah SAW, there is no failure in this world. There isn't. The only failure in the world is disobedience to Allah Subhanahu wa Taala and to Rasulullah SAW, and that is the definition of failure. Right? That's it. Right? So for as long as if you are doing this, doesn't matter what you do in life. Doesn't matter. You can be whatever you want to be in life. And this is how you should educate your children also. You can be whatever you want to be. You want to be, you want to be a librarian, you want to be a road sweeper, you want to be whatever you are, as long as be a good Muslim. Whatever you want to be. Right? And that is success. Right? I mean, if you are the best, doctor or engineer or lawyer or whatsoever, and you don't know how to obey Allah Subhanahu wa Taala, Rasulullah, then you're a failure. You don't know me, you don't care. You don't care to obey. Of course, all of us, we have our disobedience. Right? But we care. And we care to try not to disobey. You need to at least care. Right? To try your best to stay away from disobedience. Right? So this is the definition of success and failure. And the Sahaba understood that very well. Right? If you don't know how to obey Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala and Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, doesn't matter what you achieve in this world. You've achieved nothing. Right? If all of this richness and all of this success, so-called success, worldly success, can't bring you close to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala and Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, then you're a failure. It's just a failure. Right? Because this whole world is a tool. A tool for what? To get close to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, to obey Him. And if you can't use a tool for what it was created for, then you have failed in the usage of the tool. I mean, use the tool for something else, right? And then you're not going to be marked on that. You're going to be marked on what the tool was made for, right? I mean, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't care how much what you do with this dunya if it's not to the service of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And the Sahaba, they understood this message very clearly in Uhud. Right? It was a very clear message, right? That no matter what, right? And in fact, we mentioned before the battle, and Rasul told them to stay on the hill, right? He actually repeated many times. And he told them, stay on the hill. I mean, no matter what happens, stay on the hill. And he kept going back there before the battle began, going back to saying to them, stay on the hill, stay on the hill, stay on the hill, stay on the hill, stay on the hill. Because he knew they're not going to stay on the hill. And then he even told them, right, your duty is that cavalry over there, the khayl, and the khayl meaning the horses, the war horses, right? That's your part of the war, nothing else, right? That's just your duty. Watch those guys, right? Those guys over there on the horses, watch them. That's all you have to do. That's all, right? You don't have to fight in the war. Don't have to calm down. Nothing, right? And he even said that to the archers. He said all of these things to the archers. That's all you have to do. Just watch those horses. You see those horses, watch them. Right? Subhanallah, and this is how the Sharia is. All you have to do, right, is this. That's all. That's all you have to do. Right? Don't put your nose into anything else. Right? Don't try, to kepo into and ask why and what's the hikmah and what's the, I don't know the wisdom and I don't understand this. No one's asking you to understand it. Allah is asking you to obey. That's all He's asking you. He's not saying, figure out the and if you know the hikmah, good for you. But no one's asking you to know, right, the hikmah. No one's asking you to try and, figure this out. Right? God figured it out for you. God knows everything. And He says, do that, such and such. Right? Obey. SubhanAllah, the religion is easy. People make it complicated. Right? It's actually very easy. This religion is actually very, very easy if you are focused. Right? It's difficult once your nerves enter and when you have all these vanities and all these wants, all these dunyawi, whatever pursuits, everything. Then the religion becomes complicated and difficult. Right? But if you focus on the akhirah, the religion is very easy. It is very easy. Right? So, alhamdulillah. So I forgot to mention one story about this Sahabi named Hanzala. Right? Sayyidina Hanzala, right? He is called the Ghasilul Malaika. Right? Ghasilul Malaika. Right, meaning the one who was washed by the angels. Right, so basically his story, interesting story, right, is that he married the day before he got married. So he was with his wife, right, on that night itself, right, and then he got up and then he took his shower, right, his shower from junub, right, and then his wife actually had a dream, right, that she won't see him again. I can't remember exactly what the dream was, but she had a dream that she won't actually see him again. Right, so she pulled him back, right, to the bed. Right, so he slept with her a second time. Right, then when he woke up, he was like, I'm late for the jihad. I'm late. So he ran out of the door. Right, he ran out and went for jihad. Right, so which means he didn't wash himself. Right, from junub. Right, and in the battle he got killed. Right, and when Rasulullah asked, has anyone seen Hanzala? Has anyone seen Hanzala? Right, finally they found where he had died. Right, and they saw there was water traces on his body, right, and around him, right? It's as if he was bathed, right? And then Rasulullah said that the angels bathed him, right? So in him being martyred, the angels, subhanallah, the angels bathed this man called Hanzala. All right. So now Rasulullah SAW is going back. He's going back to Medina, right? He will regroup in Medina, but before that, on his way back to Medina, he meets the women of Medina, and they come out and they ask. Like what's the battle? How's things like? Where's my husband? Where's my father? Where's my son? Where's my brother? Where's my uncle? I mean, you see your entire family is all out. All the men in your family are all out at the battle, and you hear all this news, about what happened in the battle. It's not like Badr. Like Uhud was not like Badr. Right? They saw what happened at Badr, and now they saw what happened at Uhud. Right? Which is, subhanallah, which means Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala shows that if Allah wants to, Allah does not give victory. I don't think it's a guarantee from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If Allah wants to, He can just remove from you what He gave you at Badr, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to. So the woman, they heard what happened, right? So one of them, so I want to mention a few stories of the woman, like, who heard what happened at Uhud, and they came out. Right? So one of them, right, was Hamna bin Jahash. Right? Hamna bin Jahash was actually the cousin of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The cousin of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Her sister Zainab bint Jahash is Rasulullah's wife. right? It's Rasul's wife. Right? The story of Zainab bin Jahsh, whenever I come across these names, I will just tell a bit of stories lah, right, about them. Because otherwise, there are a lot of stories to be told. Right? So whenever I come across a name, I will just give you a bit of background on who these people are. Right? So Zainab bin Jahsh, she was the one, so it's basically, okay, backtrack. Sayyidina Zaid bin Haritha, right? He is the adopted son of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right? And you see, I know that we know the story of Sayyidina Zaid. Like we know. I mentioned him before also at the beginning of the Sirah classes, right, about his story, right? And the thing about it is that we never really understand, right, what he went through until you're actually in his shoes. Like for me, I read the story before. I mean, like when he was young, he was captured from his family. He was sold as a slave. He was bought by Sayyidina Khadija into the house of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Sometime later, his father and his uncle found him, right, and they wanted to take him back. And he chose to stay with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Rasulullah was so pleased with him that Rasulullah sallallahu banned him to his name. And that was before Islam prevented that, right? So he said he is Zaid bin Muhammad. And Rasulullah announced it was before Islam, right, before the revelation. And Rasulullah announced that he would inherit from me and I will inherit from him, meaning he's my son. He's my son. He's my son. And thereafter, Islam abolished that. Something do not bind them to your name, but bind them to their own father's name. So he was changed back to Zaid bin Haritha. Right? He cannot be called Zaid bin Muhammad after. Right? And usually, we read this kind of stories, and we're like, mashallah. But you don't really feel it, right? As in how difficult this was for Sayyidina Zaid and also for his parents, right? And today and you only see it from their point of view, right? And what I mean is that today I was telling the story to children, right? The class that I conduct, and they're between 6 to 9 years olds, right? So when I saw their faces, then I realized what big a deal Zaid did, right? Because when I explained to them in Arabic, and they understood. And when I told them, I was explaining to them, right, that Zaid was 9, right, and he was taken away from his parents, right, and then their face changed already, huh? And they are in this belief, that bad people came and stole him from his parents. So what I was trying to explain it in Arabic, so I kept going into giving examples. I say, like somebody brought you to Malaysia, right, or Indonesia, right, you don't know how to come back home to Singapore, right? So their faces all changed. They all look like it's a terrible thing. Right? You don't have your umi and your abi. You're so far from your ma and abba. Cannot find mine, Abba. And you realize, yeah, he was 9. It's primary 3. This is primary 3 child. I mean, you put it in his shoes. You go into his shoes. You're a 9-year-old. You're not an adult. You were stolen from your town, from your village by bandits, and then brought to a different town. So you put it in our context, like maybe one of your children taken from you, and they're 9 years old. Brought maybe to Malaysia, Indonesia. Really that breaks your heart. You see when I told the story the first time around just now, nothing moved in our heart. But now you bring it to your context, suddenly, this is a serious matter. Right? Your child was stolen. From you. And then this is not even that part. Right? He was brought to a different town. And you lost him. You searched the whole of Singapore. You have no clue where they brought him. You have no clue. He could be anywhere. He could be in Cambodia. He could be in... You have no clue where they brought him. Right? You have zero clue, right, where he has gone. Right? So, and even back then, don't need passport. Right? Now at least, he has to be kept in Singapore because he needs his passport to get out of the country. Right? But at least back then, when they stole Zaid, right, they could go anywhere up to China. You really don't know where this boy went. Right? And his father searched far and wide for him. The father really searched far and wide, couldn't find him. Eventually, one of the relatives accidentally saw him in Mecca. Right? Because at that time, he was already sold to Rasulullah, and then he was freed by Rasulullah, but he stayed in the house to Rasulullah as a freed slave. Right? So the man went back to the father and said, I saw your son in Mecca. Right? So now you imagine that you are the parent now. You lost your son, like completely. No, it's like a dead end loss. Like there's no way you can find your son, right? Suddenly someone comes and says to you, "I saw him in Johor," right? And then you're like, "Huh? My son in Johor? You know where?" And then you say, "Yeah, he's right at this place, like this shopping center. I saw him working there, for example. Like, I saw him working there." Okay, you go all the way there, and you say, "Son, let's go home." What does the son say? No. You see, you put it in your context. You say, like, no, your mother is worried sick for you. Your mother has been searching for you all this while. And you said no. Because you see, when I told this to the children, you could really see how raw it was with them, in their faces. They were like in disbelief that he didn't want to go home. They were like, literally, you see their faces, they were like, because they are in those shoes, they are that age, whereby your parents are your everything. Right, so when I told them the part about, and Zaid didn't want to go home because he wanted to stay with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and they were like, huh, why? And they couldn't and then you ask yourself, would you choose Rasulullah sallallahu over your parents as a child? As a child? Like, would you choose the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam? At that point, he was not a prophet. At that time, at point in time, he had not got to the revelation yet, but he was a good man. And I keep telling them, he was a good man, Rajul Salih. But they were like, yeah, but not his father. I mean, your father's a good man too. Right, so I mean, you see, what consumes Zaid? Sayyidina Zaid bin Haritha, right, to the point that he wasn't even, Rasul is not a prophet yet. He's a good man. I mean, he's a very good man and excellent in his conduct. Right? But he's not a prophet yet. He's still, in his 30s. He's a good man. Right? So like you would think. So when I look at their faces today, and I was telling them the story, I looked at myself like, they seem to be like they just can't buy this story. like did he really reject his father and his mother? Right? So you think about it yourself. If you're that age. And then your parents came to you and you're like, oh no, I want to save my employer. My employer's a good guy. I don't want to go home to Singapore with my parents. And in fact, his tribe, he was of the aristocrats, was of the leaders. And now he's a worker, right, in the household of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He chose that life over going back to his family and being of the chiefs of the tribe. So it's like, your child, staying in Johor and working in a shop, right? And you're like, come back to Singapore. Come, let me bring you. We have a house in Singapore. Come. Why you want to stay here? And then the amazing thing was that the father let him. I mean, like it was me. I'm like, hey, you come lah. You don't know anything. You're just 9 years old, okay? You come home with me. Yeah, within a few months. I'm not wrong lah. I mean, but basically he was still, and he recognized them. He knew who they were. And they knew who he was. Right? Because when they came to take him, and they met Rasulullah and they said, fair and square, you bought him, so we're going to buy him back from you, fair and square. Because not your fault, right? Because he was stolen, it's not your fault. Right? And Rasulullah said that, I won't sell him, right? But I will let him go if he wants to go. And see Rasulullah, how fair he is, If he wants to go, I'll let him go. And the father and uncle were like, that's a good deal. Of course he'll come. They never occurred to them. In the wildest dreams, that a son would actually choose his employer over them. Subhanallah. So you see, when you put it in perspective, you're just like, this is a very difficult story to actually wrap your mind around, that what Sayyidina Zaid did as a 9-year-old. I mean, would any 9-year-old really choose someone else over their parents? Really? I don't know a single 9-year-old who would do that. I mean, you think of all the 9-year-olds that you know. Would any of them choose a good guy, a good man over there? I mean, there was something in Rasulullah sallallahu that Sayyidina Zaid was just, and in fact, he said, right, like he said to his father, and his uncle, I love the two of you very much, right, but I've seen in this man what I've not seen in anybody else, and I cannot leave his side. There's something happened, right, in his heart, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that he couldn't bear separation from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right? And he would be in service of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Basically, his story is that he married Barakah, right? Ayman. Yeah. Yeah. Didn't I say his story before?
He married Barakah.
Yeah, I didn't tell his story. I thought I told his story before. Were you here? I did, kan? Faizah. Barakah, right, the mother, the foster mother of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right, who looked after him when he was a child, the slave girl. Rasulullah, no, she was like when she was, she's not that young. When she looked after Rasulullah, she was in the teenager when he was born. So she's at least 13 years or 14 years older than him, because she was old enough to look after him as a baby. You see, so and when his mother died, right, she brought him back to Mecca. So she was old enough to do that. to actually guide the camel with the small boy who's 6 years old all the way back to Mecca.
So now at this point when she married Barakah, she's at least 30 years older than him.
Yeah, very much older. And the reason why he married Sayyidina Barakah, Ayman, was because once she walked past and Rasulullah said, to the gathering of people who were there, it was very early in Islam, very, very early in Islam, right? There were very few Sahabas, present. He said to the Sahaba, if any one of you would like to see a woman of paradise, then look at Barakah Ayman. And Sayyidina Zayd, he was like, woman of paradise. That's a catch. And he got up, he proposed. Just proposed straight away. No questions asked. He's the adopted son of Rasulullah and she's the adopted mother of Rasulullah, right? And he proposed to her, and they got Sayyidina Usama bin Zayd. Right? Sayyidina Zayd is called Hib bin Nabi. Hib bin Nabi means the beloved of the Prophet. Sayyidina Usama bin Zayd is called Hib ibn Hib bin Nabi. Right? It means the beloved of the Prophet. Because Rasulullah loved Sayyidina Usama bin Zayd. He loved him to bits. He was like a grandson, in a way. So Sayyidina Zayd, he married Sayyidina Barakah, and because she's much older, Rasulullah actually proposed to him to marry Sayyidina Zainab bin Jahash. Right, the sister this is Hamna bin Jahash to be a second wife, because he said to Sayyidina Zayd that you're a young man, right? And young men, it's good to have a young woman, right, in your life, because Sayyidina Barakah, she's old, and she was elderly, right? Maybe you would like to have a younger wife. And he proposed his own cousin, Sayyidina Zainab bin Jahash, right? And Sayyidina Zainab bin Jahash actually liked Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. She liked her own cousin, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right? Her mother is sister to Rasulullah's father, right? So that means cousin, direct cousin, right? So her mother and Rasulullah's father are siblings, right? So direct cousin. Right, so she liked her cousin, but out of respect for Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, she agreed to the marriage. But of course, there was no chemistry between them, right? Because Sayyidina Zayd, he is basically a freed slave, right? And since he was 9 years old, he lived as a worker. He lived as a servant, right? And he and Sayyidina Barakah, they clicked very well because they were both servants. So there is a thing about them because they're from the same background. Sayyidina Zainab is an aristocrat, like Qurayshiyah. She's from the Quraysh tribe, aristocrat. Right. So when he married her, right, there's no kufu, right? It didn't click. It didn't click. Right. So he would regularly come to Rasulullah and complain about her. Right. He said, Sayyidina Zayd. He said, Ya Rasulullah, I want to divorce her. I can't stand it. I can't live with her. I cannot. To ask, and he did it more of to seek advice from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And Rasulullah would keep saying to him, be patient. And she also didn't like being married to him. Right? So their marriage it was not smooth from the beginning. It wasn't smooth from the beginning, and eventually, without waiting for Rasulullah's agreement, and Zayd divorced her. He couldn't take it anymore, and he said, Ya Rasulullah, I'm divorcing her. I cannot take it anymore. So he divorced her. Right? And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed the verse, right, in the Quran, whereby Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and he said Zayd's name specifically in the Quran. Right? Zayd is a Sahaba whereby his name is mentioned by name in the Quran. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, when Zayd divorced her, we married you to her. Her name is Sayyidina Zainab. Right, so Sayyidina Zainab became the wife of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the reason why that happened, right, is to show is to nullify the practice of the Arabs from before, that when they adopt a son, that son literally becomes a son, right? So they will bend their name and they will inherit from the son, and the son inherits from them, right? So the strongest way to nullify this, right, is that Rasul can marry the ex-wife of Sayyidina Zayd, whereby if it's a real son, you cannot, right? The father-in-law is mahram till death, right? Even if between husband and wife there's a divorce, there's death, whatever, right? Your father-in-law is your father-in-law. He is your mahram till death, right? So even if a man goes to marry a woman and divorce her, her parents mahram to him. Marry another woman, divorce her, her parents mahram to him. Marry another woman, divorce her, her parents mahram to him. All of them are mahram to him. And that is the law. And the law is that means the moment you marry a woman, right, her parents, I mean, basically if you're a man, her mother mahram to you for life. For life. There is no, even if you divorce her and she's no longer mahram to you, her mother is mahram to you. Right, and that is the law in Islam. So to abolish this thing of like when you adopt a child, it becomes your child, right? This was done. Allah ordered this. Right, so when he married Sayyidina Zainab, then this shows that the adopted son will never be like a normal son. He will never be your blood son, never, ever, and he will never. Right, so that means you're allowed to marry his ex-wife because he's not your real son. So subhanallah. So you're not a real father-in-law, in that situation. So that is Sayyidina Zainab bin Jahash. So here, since we're going off the topic, and so here is her sister, Hamna bin Jahash. Yeah, so Zainab's sister. So this first story is about Hamna bin Jahash. Hamna bin Jahash, right? She came out and she asked Rasulullah SAW about her brother Abdullah bin Jahash, who is Rasulullah's cousin, right? And then he was told that Abdullah bin Jahash was martyred, right? And then she praised Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and she sought forgiveness for Sayyidina Abdullah, right? And then he asked about her uncle, right? Her uncle, who is Sayyidina Hamza bin Abdul Muttalib. Remember, it's Rasul's cousin, about her uncle. And she was told that her uncle has been martyred, and she praised Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then she asked about her husband, right? And here, actually, I don't know why I learned that Sayyidina Mus'ab never got married, but here it says that her husband is Sayyidina Mus'ab bin Umar, so he was married. Right? And he was martyred, right, in the battle, right? And she and when she heard that her husband was martyred, right, she let out a scream, like, in a way, right? She let out a scream, right? And she looked very distressed and she was told her husband was martyred, and Rasulullah said that for surely, right, the husband has a place with his wife, right? Whereas like uncle, brother, she was so calm. Husband, she freaked out. And she kind of like, because another said it's really, right, with a woman, her husband has a place with her, right? And then another one, right, there was a woman from Bani Dinar, right, whose husband, brother, and father, right, were all martyred in the Battle of Uhud. Right, so when she was told, right, so when someone went to her and said to her, your husband, your father, your brother, all martyred. And again, you got to put your feet in their shoes. Seriously, you really got to be in their shoes, and you can imagine, right now, that yesterday your husband was with you, your father was with you, your brother was with you, and then the next day they're not, all three gone. No husband, no father, no brother, all three in one go. Right? You just imagine that, right? Then life continues. Right? Life continues thereafter. No father, no husband, no brother. Right? Done. Right? And some of them, no son. The son is gone, father's gone, brother's gone, husband's gone. No one. Right? Which is why there were a lot of marriages thereafter after the wars, because a lot of women became widowed. A lot of them, right? in one go. Right? So the Sahaba had to quickly, after they finished their iddah, the Sahaba had to quickly marry them. Right, to help, to support them. Right, because father not there, brother not there, husband not there, who's going to support them? Right, so the easiest way is that you marry them and you support them. These are not just widows, they have no father and brother, no son also. The men in their lives all gone. Right, subhanAllah, you put yourself in their shoes. Really understand what's going on. These are the first people of, the early Muslims, they strove a lot to really understand this. So when I say when we learn battles, you have to really learn battles, right? What is going on? Right? These are people, and they have lives, and they have, like, they're not fictional characters. They're real heroes. So when I was saying the kids today, I was like, and they look so like in shock, and I said, this is a true story. So that it's not, I'm not making up a story for you. It's a true story. He was a boy, right? And he got stolen from his parents, and he got sold. At 9 years old, that was what happened to Sayyidina Zaid. And then when his parents found him, they don't want to go home. He want to stay with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It's a true story. Can you imagine? It's true. It actually happened. We don't really internalize these things actually happened. Real life. This is all real life stuff. Alhamdulillah. Right. So when she was told, her husband, her brother, her father, all were martyred in Uhud, the only thing she said, tell me about Rasulullah. I don't want to hear about these people. I want to hear about Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And then when he was told to her, right, he's okay, he's fine, so and so, right, he's fine. And then and she said that show him to me. I want to see it with my own eyes. I want to see him with my own eyes. Show him to me. So when they pointed to him, right, she saw him that he was okay. Then she says that after seeing him, any affliction thereafter is nothing. Right? There's no pain. There's no pain after seeing Rasulullah SAW well and alive. Therefore, there's no pain whatsoever. Right? And another one of them. Right? So these are how the people of the Muslims were. They don't feel any pain in the loss of their husband, their father, their brother. Right? As long as Rasulullah is alive, right, that is enough for me. I don't care what else happens. It doesn't matter. They're in paradise. Right? And in fact, in the middle of Badr, we spoke about that Sahabi. So now his name just left my mind. Badr. Forgot his name right now. His name was in my mind and he left. And basically his mother came out and asked Rasulullah, where is my son? Right? And he said that he's in paradise. And the mother said, no. What I mean is like, where? Which part of paradise? Which part? You must tell me which part. Right? And then she said that he got the highest parts of paradise. Then she said, Alhamdulillah. It's like a mother who says, like, what did you do for your exam? He said, I passed. No. I want to know the marks. Give me the marks. Right? I don't want to know pass. Or I don't even want to know A. I want to know exactly what A. Which A you got. And was it 75 or was it 99? I want to know, I want to hear it's 99. I'm not happy with 75. Right? So that was, and this is the people of Akhirah. But I don't want to hear that he's in paradise. I want to hear which part of paradise, right? Did he get the highest one? And that's a true mother. And that is what your focus first shouldn't fall. And the last woman that we're going to speak about, right, is Sa'ad bin Mu'az. Right. So Sa'ad bin Mu'az, right, she came out, right, she came out, and then Sa'ad, right, found her, his mother, right, and he brought her to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He said, Ya Rasul, this is my mother. And then he says, marhaban biha, welcome, right, welcome to his mother, right. And then he stopped, right, to let her speak to him, right. So she was told that her son Amr bin Mu'az, right, passed away. Right? He was martyred in the battle, right. Then she says that, and then she said to Rasulullah, Ya Rasulullah, right, as long as I see you in peace, right, and okay, right, all of my pain, is nothing lah. I say it's so minor. All this pain is nothing as long as I see that you are okay, ya Rasulullah, right. And then Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and then she made dua, right. And then Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said that, oh Sa'ad, rejoice, right, rejoice with good news, right, rejoice and good news to the family of those who have passed away, right? For surely they are in paradise, right? High in paradise, right? And all of them will intercede for their families, right? These people who are martyred in the battle, right? And she says that, no, we are pleased, Ya Rasulullah, we are pleased, right? And she says that, and who can cry over them after this? Right, knowing they have reached the highest parts of paradise, and they can even be our intercessors, on the day of judgment. So, is there any grief thereafter? There's no grief, right? We have rida, Ya Rasulullah, right? Sayyidina Muhammad, and then she said, Ya Rasulullah, right? Make dua for whosoever, right, finds this difficult. Right, so make dua for whosoever finds it difficult to come to terms with this. And so you see that how she's like, for me, I have no issue. But I know that there are people out there who maybe they will struggle with this, try to accept the death of their loved ones. And Rasulullah says a dua here, Allahumma adhib husna qulubihim wajbur musibatahum وأحسن الخلف على من خلفوا. Right, so this dua, Rasulullah SAW said, "Oh Allah, remove, right, get rid of the sadness in their hearts, right, and cover up, right, this calamity, right, that has afflicted them, right, and give them something that is better, right, thereafter." That means follow up, right, with what is left behind. I mean, follow up for what is better for those who are left behind. Right, so this is a dua, right? This is a dua that our teachers have actually wasiat to us, right, to make when you feel a lot of sadness. So if somebody, if you know, right, is facing the death of a loved one, right, or is any form of sadness, right, this one is, I got it from Baba Salma Al-Kaf, right, and she was the one who told me that if you feel a very deep sadness in your heart, right after your prayer, and it could be, any form of sadness, right? But specifically for the loss of a loved one. If you know somebody who's is still grappling, right, loss of a loved one, you tell that person, right, after their prayer, right, right after salam, before you do anything at all, you place your hand on your heart and you say this dua, right? But instead of saying qulubihim, you say qalbi, right, my heart. Allahumma adhib huzna qalbi, right? Oh Allah, remove the sadness in my heart. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He will actually strengthen you. Right? Wajbur musibati. Right? And remove this calamity that has afflicted me. Right? Wakhalufli khairan minha. Right? And give me better than it. Right? It means whatever I have lost, whatever it is that you have lost. So it could be, it could be a job, it could be family members, it could be whoever that you used to love and you have lost, right? You do this. Right? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will help you with this. So this dua is from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I will repeat, Like, Allahumma adhib huzna qalbi wajbur musibati wa khalufli khairan minha. There is another dua from Salama, which we'll go into the story later on in a while. Right? Salama, Abu Salama, we're going to the story now anyway. Right? So, it's coming up anyway. Right? So Abu Salama, basically Salama and Abu Salama, they were this couple, right? And they have children, right? Salama is one of the child, right? So they have children. So these two, right? They were early Muslims, very early Muslims. So Abu Salama, he got afflicted in one of the battles. After this battle, right, there was another battle that Rasul sent them out on, and he was the leader of this group, right, and he got afflicted, and then he died of his wounds, right. So when he was dying of his wounds, Salama, right, was with him, and he said to her, oh my, Salama, right, when I die, make this dua, right, Allahumma ajirni fi musibati wa khulufli khairan minhu. Oh Allah, reward me in my calamity and give me what is better than it. Right. So she was told to make this dua, and she said, she relates the story. She said, at that point when he told me to say this dua, like in my mind, I was like, and who could be better than him? He's the best husband I can ever imagine. I cannot, I don't think anybody can compete with Abu Salama, as a husband. She loved him very, very much. So when he died, but she promised him that she will make the dua. So when he passed away, right, and after her iddah, right, the big Sahaba started coming to her to propose to her, and she had children, and she had small children. So they started coming to her and then and proposing to her, and she rejected everybody, and she was like, no, none of you can compare to Abu Salama. Even Sayyidina Abu Bakr came, Sayyidina Umar came, none of you can compare to Abu Salama. She said, Abu Salama. Like she loved her husband so much, and she was like, no, you all cannot compare to Abu Salama. But she kept making the dua that her husband told her to do, because it was like wasiat. Right? It was a wasiat before he passed away. She just to honor her husband, she kept making that dua. Right? And finally Rasulullah SAW came. Right? Rasulullah came and he proposed to her. Right? And now she saw someone who is better than Abu Salama. Right? But even then, right, she said to him that she would love to marry him, but she has issues. Right? That she feels that will cause problems in the marriage. Right? And then Rasul asked what are those issues. Then she says that 3 issues. Right? The first one is that I'm an old woman. Right? At that point she was actually nearing 30. She was nearing 40. She was past 30, she was nearing 40. To them, old lah. To them, because they all married at 9, 10. Right, so to be, nearing 40 is like, for us, for us like now, if you look at statistics, Singapore average age of marriage is around 35. If you look, in Singapore average age of woman marrying, for men it's around 38. Right? Because if you count all the non-Muslims, if you count around Muslims, then the Muslims are the ones who are marrying earlier. Right? But because, of our Sharia, right? Because we can't play around. But the non-Muslims, they have no reason to marry earlier. They can do whatever they want to do because to them it's not sinning if they are always going out. Right? But for us, it's like, dosa. Right? Like, come in, and get married. Because that's that's because our Sharia, pushes us into marriage, alhamdulillah. Right? But in Singapore, average age, if you look all Singaporeans, Muslim, non-Muslims, 35. Right? For women and around 38 for men. Right? It's very, if I look on Facebook and I look at my secondary school classmates and my JC classmates, majority of them not married yet. Because 30, I'm 31. Right? So it's majority are not married yet. Not married yet. Right? And a lot of them who are married just got married like last year. They kind of like 30, they got married. Right? Whereas I'm married at 24. Right? So it's like when I got married, almost my entire class, maybe two were already married. And my whole class in secondary 4, right? That means 40 people, right? Only 2 were actually already married. My JC class even was like nobody was married at the time I was married. Right? So like I was the first one in my batch, like in a way. And you think about it, look at your Facebook, you're like, yeah, it's true. It's true, right? It's the average age is in the age. But Allahu Alam, Allah knows best, right? Alhamdulillah. So basically she was 30 plus. And she said, I'm old. I'm an old woman, Ya Rasulullah. And then she said, and I have children. So my second floor, my first floor, I'm old. Right? Is that there could be an issue with you? And I have children. Right? And then I said, and my third floor is that I'm jealous. A lot of jealousy. I have ghira. I have ghira. And then Rasulullah said, as for your age, I'm also old. So we'll be all together. Like, why not? Like, and then that's a mashallah. Like men nowadays, like they want young men, they are so old. They want young women and they are so old. Like be your age lah. And then when they get young women, they complain. She's not mature enough. You marry a woman. Of course she's not mature enough. Like, you get older woman. If you have maturity in a wife, you get someone older lah. But no one young, whatever lah. I have that complaint a lot. Like, so then the second one when he said I have children, she was like, and he said, your children are my children. Right? Your children are my children. Okay, that settles that. Right? And then about her ghira, like her jealousy, he said that as for your jealousy, I'll make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that you will never be jealous. Right? And true enough, she was one wife that never had any issue with any other wife, ever. Right? You would never hear any story between her and another wife, ever. Right? The other wives had like their issues, right? Sayyidina Zainab and Sayyidina Aisha, they had like issues with each other. Right? Sayyidina Aisha, Sayyidina Hafsa, it's like one camp, that kind of thing. And then Sayyidina Zainab, and they have like camps, right? The wives. Not Salama, that one is Sauda. Sayyidina Sauda, lion wife. Sayyidina Sauda is the first one he married after Sayyidina Khadijah. And she's much older and she's a comic. she's kaka. She's very funny. Right? So she's like a delight in his life, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which is why she was proposed. The Sahabiyat proposed her to Rasulullah because she was also widowed, right? And she was one of the first few believers also. Right, so they proposed her, not that she'll ever take Sayyidina Khadijah's place, and nobody will ever take Sayyidina Khadijah's place, but she was a delight. She's funny, right? So these kind of people who are just naturally very funny. Like, they don't make jokes, but just the way they are, they're just delightful to have around. They're very cute. In the way they are, they're very like that. They takut. They're scared of things. Then they run away. And they're very innocent and naive. And so that they're funny to be around. It's so cute to be around. So she was that. That was how she was. So the Sahabiya thought, she's a good match. She don't need that many things. She's not, gonna create more problems for him or put him in more distress. No, but she's gonna just be an assistance in the house, right, to keep the matters of the house, in order. To be there for his children, because remember he has children, and his daughters are still there. Right? Sayyidina Ruqayya at the time, Sayyidina Kulthum, Sayyidina Ruqayya was married. Sayyidina Kulthum and Sayyidina Maryam, Sayyidina Fatima, and Sayyidina Kulthum, they were unmarried at that time. Right? So, and they were teenagers. Right? They were teenagers when the mother passed away. Right? So it just made sense that an older woman came to the house. Right? And it could be there while someone was busy, right, doing the da'wah. That's why Sayyidina Sauda was actually proposed. Right? Sayyidina Aisha was Allah's command. Right? That's why Rasul didn't choose Sayyidina Aisha. Because Sayyidina Aisha, her role was not to look after his children. She was younger than his children. Right? Sayyidina Fatima was way older than Sayyidina Aisha. Right? But her role was it was clear, scholarship. That was her role. Right, so and then each of them, they have their roles in the life of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Zainab Salama is also one of the other sahabiyat, or one of the other wife of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who also narrated hadith. She had quite a number of hadiths narrated from her. So she was also a woman of intellect, right, and memory. Right, so she, Sayyidina Hafsa, Sayyidina Salama. These are the two wives you will hear quite often, them narrating hadith. The other wives, very rare. Very rare you actually hear them narrating hadith. But Salama, you will find her hadith appearing. Right? And she was the wife also, to show her intellect. She was the wife, later on we will see, during the Treaty of Hudaybiyah, when Rasulullah agreed with the disbelievers not to enter Mecca to do Umrah, but to turn back and to come back next year. And he signed an agreement with them that on the outward seemed like a very ridiculous, unfair agreement against the Muslims. Right? And then but he signed it anyway. And when he told the Sahaba, we're not going for Umrah this year, we're going to go back to Mecca, none of them budged. They all just sat there and do anything. So I said, we're going back to Mecca. Ya Allah, let's go. They didn't budge. So he got upset. Rasulullah like the Sahaba, they were not disobeying him. They were just hoping that he changed his mind. They were like, are you really going? Like, maybe he'll change his mind. Let's sit here for a while. Like they didn't really believe they were going to go back. So she was the one that when he went back to the tent and he said to her, see lah, like this Sahaba, I told them we're going to go back. I've already signed the agreement, but they're not moving. And then she was the one saying, Ya Rasulullah, why don't you go out there, shave your head and slaughter your animal, and they know you mean business. Right? Because the moment you shave your head, that means your ihram off. Ihram off. Slaughter your animal, ihram off. That means what? No umrah. Once take off your ihram, no umrah. So if you do that, they will, it will click in their heads. There's no turning back, right? No umrah, go home. So he took. So see how she gave the advice. The smart wife. He's a smart wife, right? So he went out. He did exactly what she said, right? And that shows also the humbleness of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That wife give advice. It's a good advice. Take it. I don't woman, whatever you say, like I know better, I'm the prophet. No, good advice. It's true. It's right. She's right. Right, just do that. And she did that. True enough, when all of them saw him shaving his head, and slaughter his animal, they were like, yeah, he's serious about this. So we're all going to shave our heads and slaughter our animal and go home to Medina. SubhanAllah. So it was her, said Salama. Said Salama, she was the one. And who was there who gave a very... So she, when you read her hadith, you can actually sense that she's a very smart person. Very smart person. Right? So that is basically Sayyidina Salama. Right. Okay, so anyway, this dua, do you want me to write it down? Do you want me to write it down? Okay, around is the dua of Sayyidina Salama, and around the dua that is here that Rasul said after the Battle of Uhud, to help those Sahabi, and those Sahaba who had issues, who found it difficult to accept the death of their loved ones. Right, so you see, when you go into battles, you don't just go into the fighting. You go into the aftermath. Right? And you see how difficult it was, Sahaba. Really, really difficult it was, right? To really see your family members go out into battle and then die. Right? And then this, khalas, that's all there is to it. Right? Especially Sayyidina Hanzala. Right? He just got married. So the wife, he's like, yeah, the day before. I mean, he just had his first night with his wife. Right? So she's like a one-day widow. Like one day married, next day widow. Like, I mean, can you imagine her shoes? Like, how does she feel? That so when she saw it in her dream, she pulled him back. Like, she was like, it's difficult for her to let go, but she knows she has to let go. I mean, these are all things that in our time it will traumatize us a lot. Right? But these are people who are very strong people. Right? So the dua, like Allahumma azhib. I'll put in the harakat in a while. Don't worry. Sure, like no harakat. Right? Azhib huzna. If you want my heart, qalbi. Right? Huzna qalbi. Right? If you are doing it on someone else's behalf, right? Or people's behalf, right? Qulubuhum. Qulubuhum. Or qulubihim. Sorry. Okay? Like especially if you know an auntie or cousin or friend or whosoever, like they lost their child like at birth, maybe miscarriage whatsoever, and you know they're going through a very difficult time, and you know that, or even that cousin who's going through a breakup, even though you know that it's haram whatsoever, but feelings are feelings lah. Broken heart is broken heart, right? So you can do the dua on their behalf. Because they won't memorize this, or like they won't do it, or you do it on their behalf. Alright, so Allahumma azhib huzna qalbi or qulubihim. The dua here says, wajbur musibatahum, right? Wajbur Oh, sorry. Sila. What musibah? Okay, if you want me again, musibati. Right? And then wa ahsin. Right. Wa musibati wa ahsin al-khalfa ala man khulifu. Wa ahsin al-khalfa على من خلفوا. Alright, okay. Alright, Sayyidina Salama's dua. Right. Allahumma ajirni. Allahumma ajirni fi musibati wakhluf li khairan minha. Tamam, wakhluf li khairan minha. Okay, give it doa, the harakat Allahumma azhib huzna qalbi ay qulubihim wajbur musibati. Right, if you want musibatahum, if it's people, musibatahum. Right, okay, you see it? We'll see. It's a sort, draw it properly. Right, musibatahum wa ahsin khalfa ala man khulifu. Allahumma ajirni fi musibati wakhluf li khairan minha. Tamam? Wakhluf Yes. Khalf means behind. Right? The Khalifa is the one that the successor. The one that comes behind. The one that comes after. The Khalifa of Rasulullah, the one that comes after Rasulullah. Right? So wakhluf, al-Khalifa means what is left behind. Right? Those that are left behind. Right? So if you want the meaning, Allahumma adhib husna qalbi, Allah remove the sadness in my heart. Wajbur musibati, that means like remove this calamity of mine. I mean, or like a musibah breaks you. So jabara, the word jabara, that means to mend it. Okay, I mean, so I don't know how to say in English. I mean, just basically, fix it lah. Fix my musibah, my calamity. Wa ahsin al-khalafa ala man khulifu, right? Ala man khulifu, right? And perfect, right? Or perfect, right? The succession of those who have to succeed. I mean, of those who come after, those who were made to take over in a way. Right? They're made to take over. There's no, because these people have gone. And the dua of Salama, oh Allah, reward me in my calamity, right? And follow it up with something that is better. Right? And I tell you, this dua of Salama, it is mujarrab. Mujarrab, right? It is tried, tested, proven. I have used this dua so many times in my life. It has never failed me. This dua, ever. Right? So in your lowest, when things really go really bad, right? And this musibah, like you cannot imagine how you're gonna get through the musibah, right? You make this dua, right? I guarantee you, inshallah, right? Allah will not fail you in this dua. He will not fail you. Right? So you will get better. You will. Right? You will get better. Subhanallah. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. That's why when you learn Sirah, you learn all this stuff that Rasul said. Last week it was a dua that you went through, right? He's a genius in dua, sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Alright, so now Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Any questions? You okay? Now, if you want the definition later on, the translation, you can ask me later on. Right? Okay. Or just hear the speaker again. I think I said it a few times. I said the translation a few times, right, in the class. Alright. Alhamdulillah. Right? You can check it at time 60. Right? 60 minutes. Now 1 hour. Right? When I switch the story. Alhamdulillah. Alright. So now Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right? So now he goes back, right, to Medina. And then he makes an announcement to the people of Medina, right, to the men. Right? He says that I'm going to march out again. Right? Don't pack your armor. We're going to go march out again. In case of disbelievers, in case it occurs to them to come back. Alright? So we're going to march out again, right, to show that we are full strength, full force. Right? And we are still strong. Right? You want me to just pause for a while? You all are still copying down the Arabic. Yeah, okay.
The second one, Allahumma
Ajirni. Ajirni. Fi. Musibati. Wakhluf. Sorry. my kha is a lazy kha. It's a very lazy kha, I know. You're used to my kha. I don't do the sharp thing. I was like you should have seen my initial writing. I used to never do the teeth on the sin. I would just go straight. It's a way in Arabic writing, whereby you don't do the teeth on the sin, on the shin. It's an Arabic writing. That's the way you write Arabic. No. It's understood. They do like that, right? No teeth. Yeah. So it's like, I'm just gonna show. So for example, if you're gonna write Bismillah. If you go to the Arab world, everyone writes it that way. No one does a teeth on the sin. Ever. So it's, I'll say then what? Then no, sin. Apa? Oh, it will look like this. That's how it look. Huh? No, it's understood. So is it an Asian thing or something? No. Yeah. They don't in the Arabic world. They don't. It takes too long. So in the Arabic world, they don't even do the dots. If you see my real writing, I never do this. I do this. Let me do dots. I never do the dots, but I do the dots for you all. Because enough people have been like, what's that? And if like for example, if you write, yeah, right. Like for example, this.
That's Allahumma.
Sorry. That is shaitan.
What?
Yeah. Anyway, this is in the Arab world. That's how they write. You get used to it. Their writing is so shorthand, I tell you. Like drawing dots is too short. It's too slow to do 2 dots. They go 9, or they go cone. And they don't bother doing the teeth of the sin and the shin. They just and they don't even do alif lam. They go like that. So you don't know alif lam, right? They just go up, down. This,
Pick it up.
yeah, they want to pick up their pen. That's the thing. Because you got to pick it up and you know the dots. Okay, anyway, alhamdulillah, let's just continue. People are like, so distracted in this class. Alhamdulillah. Okay, anyway, alhamdulillah. Alright, so Rasulullah goes back to Medina and he now says, we're going to go out again. Alright? But he makes a condition right now. He says that nobody who was not with us yesterday at Uhud is to come out with us now. Which means that he's clamping down on the munafiq. Like, all you munafiqun, you deserted us yesterday during Uhud, you're not allowed to come out this time around. They are not allowed to come out. Right? I mean, it's to show that you are not welcome with us on battles anymore. You are not welcome. Right? Stay home. Right? So Abdullah bin Ubay, the chief of the munafiqun, right, wanted to follow, some did not allow him to follow. I said, no, stay at home. Right? You deserted us, you're not allowed to come out ever again. Right? And this is also for protection. Because now the Muslims are wounded. They're weak. Right? They're actually forcing it. They're forcing themselves to come out. Right? To force themselves to show a strong front. To scare the enemy. Right? If they had stayed in Medina and hide in Medina, the enemy would have been, brave, right, to come and attack. Right? But when the enemy hears, catches wind, right, and the Muslims have now marched out, they begin to fear. Right? That, oh, they're not that afflicted. And they're not that wounded that they can actually march out the very next day. But they were very wounded, and they were very afflicted, and they were very tired, and they were hurting. Right? They were in a lot of pain, the Muslims. Right? But they had to show a strong front. So that the munafiq were not allowed to come. Because the munafiq would know the real situation of the Muslims, and they would just very well tell the non-Muslims what's going on. Right? So as the non-Muslims would actually feel the confidence, right, to attack the Muslims. Because if they had come to attack, right, because the Muslims are now really, really weakened. So you cannot have somebody spoiling the entire thing. They're trying to fake a strong front. Right? So you can't have, someone within the ranks, right, go and tell the disbelievers that, this is a very good time to crush them. Right? So that nobody who did not come during Uhud was allowed to follow, right, except for Sayyidina Jabir bin Abdullah. Sayyidina Jabir was allowed, right, because for Uhud, his father told him to stay at home look after his sisters. Right? Sayyidina Jabir had a lot of sisters. Right. So initially he was not allowed to. His father not allow him to go for any jihad, right? Because the father was afraid that if both of them die, and no one of the sisters. Right? But after the father passed away, Sayyidina Jabir began going for jihad, right? And of course he married. He married an older woman. Sayyidina Jabir was one of those married older women. And when Rasulullah asked him, why did you marry an older woman? You're a young man, and he said that, yeah, Rasulullah, I have sisters, and they're young. So I need an older woman, right, to be a mother for them, and it shows that his mother was not around, lah. Right? So I mean, it's kind of like a responsible brother, lah. But I have small sisters, and they need a motherly figure, right? So I let my wife take that role, right, for my younger sisters. And they think the marriage is not always about romance. Marriage is about what is common sense, what is responsibility, right? So subhanallah. So Sayyidina Jabir was allowed to follow. Right? He was allowed to follow, right, this time round. Right? Even though he said, Rasulullah, the only reason why I stayed behind was because my father told me to do so, to look after my sisters. Right? So can I go out now if you want? He wants to get a portion of Battle of Uhud. Right? Rasul allowed for him. Right? He didn't allow for anybody else. True enough, right, the disbelievers on their way back to Mecca, now it occurred to them, why are we going? Right? Why are we going? Now their minds came back. Allah gave them back their minds. Right? So now it occurs to them, like, where are we going? What are we doing? Right? So they said to themselves, turn back. Right? Crush the beat. See what? We didn't win anything. We didn't take any booty. We didn't take any prisoners of war. We didn't even kill the main people. Nobody that we were aiming for died in that battle. Random people. Because of the 70 people who died, 50 plus, about 55 were Ansar. Out of the 65.
Only 5.
5 from the Muhajirun. In fact, not even 5. Right? It was mentioned like not even 5. It was like 4 from Muhajirun, and then 1 from there was a Jew. The Jew that died. There was one. I mentioned that there was one Jew who came out to battle, right? Because he was true to his book, right? That said that when the Prophet comes, fight with him in the battle, and the Prophet said that he is the best of the Jews. right? Because he was true to his book, right? So these are so the Ansar, they were 65 or around that passed away, which means for the Meccans, we don't know who we killed. They have no clue, these people. They don't know who the people of Medina are. Right? So for them, the only main name that they knew was Sayyidina Hamza. Nobody else. Everybody else was like nobody to them. So they were like, we didn't mean anything. Like we didn't beat the main people. Like in Badr, Rasulullah SAW and the Muslims killed the main people of the Quraysh, the main people, the big guns. Right? But in Uhud, it's not a victory because we don't know who we killed.
Do we know who was killed by the Muslims?
In Uhud, yes, about 30. About 30 disbelievers, but they were not because the main people are gone by Badr. They were gone by Badr, right? So Sayyidina Muhammad. So they turned around. They were like, you know what? Let's go back. Right? We didn't win anything in this battle at all. We didn't even take wealth. What's wrong with us? So true enough, they turned back. All right. At this point, there was a man named Ma'bad bin Abi Ma'bad. Right? He, at this point, some say he actually entered into Islam at this point. Some say he had not entered into Islam at this point. Eventually, he will enter into Islam. Right? So, Allahu Alam. But basically, right, he came to Rasulullah SAW at that point and said that, I will go to disbelievers. Right? I'll do you a favor. Right? I'll go to the disbelievers. Right? They don't know that I'm Muslim, if he was Muslim or if he was not Muslim. I'll go to disbelievers and I will make it to them as if you have gathered a huge army. Right? Because the disbelievers knew that there were still men in Medina. They didn't come up for Uhud. So they were afraid actually that Rasulullah went back to Uhud and he called all those people back up. Right? The backup people. Right? So this guy goes to the disbelieving camp and they're on the way back on the way to Medina to finish off the Muslims. And he goes there, he makes a scene. Right, he wails and he screams and he shouts. This is what they like to do. Same story, same story. They love doing this kind of like drama thing. They love the drama. Right, so they go and he do this huge drama, right, about the Muhammad has come out, right, with his companions, and if you were to see, I have never seen such an army before in my life, right? They really exaggerate the entire situation, right? So he's doing it for see, this is all war tactics. You really made them shake. And I've never seen, so he says, I've never seen an army like that in my life, right? And they will completely destroy you. I'm very sure you better go back to Mecca while people think that you are victorious. Don't ruin this. Now it seems that they are the losers, you're the winners, okay? Even though we know in reality that they didn't win anything, right? It just seemed that they were the winners, right? So while it seems you're the winner, don't spoil this victory. Go home, right, win and run. Don't try it for a second round. You might lose. Right? So and now the Sahabas have learned their lesson. So you will definitely lose. Right? Don't go back. Right? So he makes a huge thing. Right? So he was like, stay where you are. Stay where you are. Don't make a fool of yourself. Right? The Arabs really see you as triumphants. In this battle. Don't take your victory and run. Right? So this is what he did. Right? So of course, Sayyidina Abu Sufyan at that point he was not a believer. Right? He said that, what are you saying? We are about to go back to crush the Muslims. Right? And you're saying that he has a huge army now? Right? And now these believers began to be shaky. Right? And when they got shaky, they got cold feet, got scared, went home. So it worked. And the Muslims went out. Right? They went out. And they stayed in their positions, right, for about 3 days. No one showed up, and they went back. Right. So you see, the battle was a very strange ending. Even to the Arabs. Right. So whether the Quraysh thought that they went home with the victory, right? But now the Arabs are all seeing, because you see, the entire peninsula is watching. After what happened at Badr, this is a good show. This showdown between the believers and disbelievers, right? Everyone's in on it, right? Everyone's talking about it, right? Because it's like 300, 1,000 they won. Now it's like, so you see, what seemed like a victory, now it seems strange. Because never in the history of war did a losing army come out to challenge the winning army, and the winning army goes home. This doesn't happen in warfare. If you're a winning army, you're a losing army, the winning army comes out and the losing army goes home. Not the other way around. So like this is a very strange thing in the peninsula. So they were like, what's going on? Right? And in fact, it was a humiliation on the people of Mecca. You're supposed to be the winning army. How come you all chicken out? Right? So it was a blow on them. And to the name. You're supposed to be courageous. You won. Right? You're supposed to not be scared of the one that you won. You're supposed to come out and finish them off. Right? But even that in itself, I send the message that Muslims are not to be defeated. Right? This Muslim army, don't mess with them. Right? They are not to be defeated. Right, so alhamdulillah, and from in this regards, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent down an ayat in this regards, whereby He said, a'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, when the people say, inna an-nasa qad jama'u lakum fakhshawhum فزادهم إيمانا وقالوا حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل. Right, when Allah says in the Quran, right, in Surah Ali Imran, when the people went to him and they said that, for surely the people have gathered against you, right, to the Muslims, because Abu Sufyan sent the message to Rasulullah. Because you see, Abu Sufyan, he's not a stupid guy, right? He's a clever guy. So he kind of knows that if we turn back, right, it's going to look very bad on us. Right? I mean, it's not going to be very a good image for us. We won the battle. We're not supposed to turn back. Right? They know what warfare is supposed to be like, so they know that this is a very difficult situation right now. Right? He's telling us it's a huge army gathered. So Abu Sufyan, he knows this is not a good idea to go back, but it's a good idea to go forth. Right? Which is like the worst of two damages. Like which is less damage onto our name or onto ourselves. So Abu Sufyan actually tried to scare the Muslims home. Right? So he sent messengers, right, down, and he gave them money. He actually paid them, right, entire camel's worth of raisins or something like that. Right? He paid them to go down to the Muslims and warn them, oh, this believers is a huge army. He tried to play the same game. Right? So this was a huge army, you better get lost, go home, don't stay here, right, whatever. Right? But the Muslims are like, no, we're gonna stay. Right? And then they say, you know what, Allah is enough for us. We are gonna stay, we're gonna fight. Right? So Abu Sufyan tried to do the same tactic to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but Allah says in the Quran, right, and when the people came to them and said that, oh, the people have gathered a huge force against you, so fear them. And Allah says, فَزَادَهُمْ إِيمَانًا. Right? It just increased their iman. That's all they did. It just increased their iman. And they said, فَقَالُوا حَسْبُنَا اللَّهُ وَنِعْمَ الْوَكِيلُ. Right? Allah is enough for us, and He is the best of whom we rely on. فَانْقَلَبُوا بِنِعْمَةٍ مِّنَ اللَّهِ وَفَضْلٍ لَمْ يَمْسَسْهُمْ سُوءٌ وَاتَّبَعُوا رِضْوَانَ اللَّهِ وَاللَّهُ ذُو فَضْلٍ عَظِيمٍ. Surah Ali Imran. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and then, so go ahead, by the blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and by His bounty, and no harm will come to you, right? And follow the way of Allah's pleasure. For surely Allah, He is the one who has great bounty. Right? So Allah assures the Muslims, you're on the right path, stay where you are. Right? And Allah casts fear in the hearts of these believers. You cannot win in a battle when you're against God. Right? God can put fear in your hearts. God can cause the arrows to turn away. God can do whatever He wants to do. He can send His angels, cause rain to come down. Rain. Like in Ahzab later on, Battle of the Trench, He sent the wind. You can't fight God. And the thing about it is that there were people, still those who didn't get it. And it's like Sayyidina Khalid bin Walid very fast. He was like, you know what? I'm going to go to that side. Right, that's the side of God. It's ridiculous to be on this side and fighting God. He sends wind. He sends angels. He sends His rain. He gives us dreams. In His hands is everything. You're going to fight Him? This is the most ridiculous idea. Right? You're going to fight God, subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? You think about it. That God can get an earthquake. To Allah it's easy. But subhanallah, the disbeliever is so blinded. And here, and here, the one thing I wanted to mention, there's these believers, in the next battle that we're going to go into, these believers, they really, rallied all the tribes of the Arabs, to extinguish the Muslims once and for all, and there were these believers who would give caravans of wealth, in the cause to destroy Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and then and Habib was like, you see, these people, how much money they will spend, on falsehood. Where are the Muslims spending their money on truth? For us, you don't want to spend on truth, you think twice, think 3 times. You hold your money to yourself, you don't want to give, you're so stingy. These believers, for the sake of their anger and revenge and the kind of sickness that they have, they give all their money. Even up to today. There are those who will spend, to ruin the name of Islam online. They'll pay people, say all the wrong things. They would, that day I saw a book that was being distributed, which actually you could actually report these people, There's this Quran is called. It's a terrible book, about these people who were former Muslims, and they made a book on the Quran, to so-called show all the faults in the Quran and whatsoever. Oh, it's all nonsense. It's all nonsense. Yeah, but you see the kind of effort they put in. Oh, the book is hardcover. It's hardcover. It's good binding. It's like it's method paper. It costs money, and they were giving out free to delude people from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You see the kind of work that these people are doing, and the beware of the believers. For us, to make a book itself, there's a lot of time to type out an entire book, to do an entire tafsir of the Quran, There's a lot of time. It takes years now. It takes years to do this project, to make a book. It can take years to do a book, They did the whole thing on falsehood, and then they have funding and they spend their money and just to spread falsehood. So if this is the effort of those on falsehood, those who on truth, you should be more. Where are you? You should be way more on your efforts to spread the truth. Those on falsehood, they have no qualms, spending all their income, to spread falsehood. Those on truth, they should be the one. They should be more. So Habib was saying that the Muslims, where are you spending your wealth in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Where's your wealth going? Are you always going to be, buying all this stuff that's you're going to be questioned about? Clothing and this vanity and this bags and whatsoever. And for me, I don't know lah, Allahu A'lam, but sometimes I just feel very, I find it really disturbing that people spend hundreds of dollars on bags. I find it the most disturbing thing. Yeah, it's so hundreds, thousands. Who in the world? And it's just it's such a disturbing thought. Why in the world would someone do that? Okay, shoes can maybe good quality. You know what? Bag, how good is good? Bag is a bag, and it khalas. But shoes, maybe you say, it doesn't break, you can use it for years. Allahu Alam, say what you want to say. But sometimes,
Shoes can last long also anyway.
because dunya, nothing lasts in the dunya. Nothing lasts in this dunya. Everything breaks, everything dies, and you should know that. And so I'm just I know someone they would spend, $50, $60 on a pencil case. Pencil case. Got people who will spend that kind of money on a pencil case. And you're like, you should rubber band and tie my pencil together. And just get cheap pouches and just put pencil inside. Or throw pencil in the bag also can, right? I mean, subhanAllah, see, this is what the believers are doing. These believers are doing something else, and we are just being so foolish. Subhanallah. Allah knows that Allah will judge. May Allah subhanahu be lenient on us. Of the kind of, you would say it is idiocy. Idiocy? I don't know how to say it. Yeah, right. I mean, seriously, it is. You can't even sugarcoat it. You can't even say it nicely. It is. Subhanallah, but it's.
And one thing I want to share is the
billion-dollar
multi-million
industry.
dollar industry, and there's still poverty.
Yeah.
Like a movie makes millions. The actors are paid millions. And
Yeah.
spread falsehood.
Just waste people's time.
Not sweat, waste people's time.
Yeah, then it's basically fantasy.
And it's multi-million dollar.
Yeah, we live in a world whereby these people in the past, they used to be the low people in the society, actors in the past. Right, those who were on stage, they were the low ones in society, and they were the ones who just they make in the they were the low ones. Now they are like the celebrated. They got called celebrities because they're celebrated. Right, you're not supposed to celebrate them. Right, it's what we celebrate them. We spend our money on this kind of nonsense. Right, all this will be questioned on the day of judgment. As well, so one thing I remember when I go in Tarim, when I used to go for my Sirah classes, my teacher would always say, ask yourself every day, what are you doing for your Prophet? What are you doing? Every day you must ask, like, what am I doing today for my Prophet? Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. You want to claim love. When you claim love for someone, you serve that person. That's love. Right? So every day you got to ask yourself, what am I doing today for my Prophet? Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. What am I doing? Right? Or am I doing something that this brings pain to his heart? And if every day that's your first question when you wake up. What am I going to do today for my Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam? Like, what gift am I going to give today for my Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam? And if you can't think of anything, at least do 100 salawats, 100, 200, 300. At least that. If you can't, and the best thing that he loves, the thing that will bring most happiness to his heart, is to call people to Islam. Right? Call the Muslims to Islam, call the non-Muslims to Islam. Right? Call the world to Islam. Right? Save them. Put them to the religion of Allah Subhanahu wa Taala. And if you're not a teacher, then spread. There are many lectures online from good teachers. Then spread the message. Right? Be someone who spreads. Right? And maybe you can get your Facebook and Instagram to be that. Right? To be a spreading machine. Right? I mean, at least something. Right? Don't be a passive observer. Right? That's not useful. Right? Be someone who's active. And Syekh Buti said, we live in a time whereby it is fardu ain on every believer to carry this religion. Fardu ain. Right? It's no longer, don't leave it to the ulama. Everybody has to carry it because of the widespread corruption. Right? There is no choice now that we cannot afford a single believer to be idle. Every believer needs to be active, right, in spreading the religion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive us. Sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Al-Fatiha. Anna Allah yarzuqna ilman nafi' wa amala khalis maqbul wa ta'alim. wa dalal ala al-huda wa yusarrib liqawna bi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam wa rawahi mu'alimina wa mashayikhina wa dhawi al-haqqi alayna wa ila hadra al-mizruha al-Fatiha. اللهم يرحمنا ويرحم من اشتاق إليهم ويرحم من نحب ويرحم من مرضانا ويرحم كل من يحاولنا ويرحم ويغفر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. صلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم والحمد لله رب العالمين. آمين.